Hello everyone, welcome to Sterling Lee Fine Art. This is the first one that I'm trying to do on a weekly basis, just so as I can show everyone what I do and how I do it and such. What I want to do tonight is continue working on the piece that I started with you last week. And I'm going to block in some more skin tones and just see where we go from there. So I've not done any more work on it since you last saw it. Been too busy doing other things. Lots of stuff to do with websites and marketing and yada yada yada. So the top half of the figure still needs to be worked on. Bottom half's pretty much there at the moment. Both the legs are looking the right sort of tonality and the right sort of shape, the right sort of form. So they can be left until I've got the top in. Once I've got the top in, then I can then concentrate more on the overall tonality of the whole piece. Because there's no point really finishing off one area when you've still got other areas to do. Well, not as far as I'm concerned, because that's the way I paint. So that's the way it's going to be done. So, as you can see, we're all set to go there. Paint's mixed. I've got the colour mixed, the flesh tones mixed, that's all sorted. Brushes at the ready. Have brushes, will paint. If I just turn you around slightly there, so as you can see better. There we go. So, I will get my medium, which is my sort of gel-based medium. I don't know if you can see that in there. It's actually quite a solid kind of medium. As you can see, it doesn't slip out of the tin. But that allows me to paint the oils quite freely in one regard, and the other thing that it does is that it speeds up the drying time of the oil paint. So you're not waiting for days and days and days for the layers to dry off. I'm not putting the paint on too thickly. It's not a thick impasto. It's not got loads of texture to it, although there's a little bit, as you can see just up there when I put it on with a palette knife. But essentially, the paint's going on relatively thinly, and it'll dry quite quickly. In a couple of days, it'll be touch dry, and that allows me to continue and progress the painting. So what I'm going to start off with is a dark tone. If you can just about see, just about down there, this. That there is my reference image. So there we go. Again, marl stick at the ready, so that I can concentrate on the centre of the painting. I'm just going to start to block in where I can see the darker tones of the skin, just around the centre of the arm, where the light's not really catching the arm. Because I've got on this reference image, I've got light coming from the top, sort of a reflective light coming from the top. The main amount of light is coming from this area and from that area. So I have to obviously respect that on the reference image and then transfer that to my painting. Otherwise you'll end up with light sources coming from everywhere and the painting won't flow and it'll just look odd. So I'm just going to keep that theme going through this piece. Whatever I decide to do with it afterwards, I've just got to balance that around what I've got so far. So this is actually a little lighter than I thought it was going to be, but I'll just leave it like this for the time being. I don't want to get it too dark right at the get-go, otherwise it'll be too difficult to work with later. Well, it'll just require more finishing really, and it'll just takes more time, more effort. So something you need to be aware of, that's all really. I've got some lighter tones coming down there, and I've got darker tones again at the top of the shoulder, around sort of that area. I can bring that down there a bit. A lot of the tonality on this part of the body is quite medium. There's not a lot of shadow actually in it, but there is also quite a fair bit of of reflected and ambient light. So I've just got to be aware of that. Like I've said before, the beauty of using this medium is that if you make a mistake, it's quite controllable and you can actually correct it. So to blend that down there. The other thing with this as well is why I like painting this subject matter is that there's no straight lines. You're just constantly painting. You're actually trying to paint light and not light, so light and dark, to give a three-dimensional aspect to a two-dimensional image, and that's the trick. Not always easy, I hasten to add. A bit more of that going on there. It needs to get a bit darker up by the hand, so I'm just going to add a bit of burnt umber into that mix, which will thicken it up a little and make it a bit darker. So immediately that's a bit darker. This is just what I want. So I'll bring that a bit further down. And straight away that starts to blend into the lighter colour and it's thinning the dark down, which is not what I want to do really. I'll just spread that out a bit. Bring that in there. So I've actually gone over part of the hand up here. You can just about see that there. But I can correct that because I know where the fingers are going on the piece. I can still just about see that through the background. And I've got a bit of what would be the right hand arm showing through just off the back of this. So I'm just going to put a dark line in there just to signify that piece just coming down there. Keep a check on my reference so I don't go too crazy with it. That just blend nicely into the arm in the foreground. I'll just pull that around there a bit. There we go, so we now got two arms. Trust me, it'll look a lot better when it's finished. Famous last words. So I've got a top, I've got a bit of muscle structure coming down there. So I'll just block that in. That'll have to have a bit of light onto the front of that muscle just to give it some definition. I could probably pull that up a bit higher as well. Just coming down to the elbow there. At the elbows you've got a little bit of a kink. So if I show that just finishing off about there, then as obviously the elbows then defined as angling away from you because you're getting more light on this section of the arm, less light on this section because the arm's effectively doing that away from you. Right then, so I'll leave that brush loaded with the dark tone of paint. Just grab myself a swig of pop. So all this talking makes your throat dry. We'll get on the mid-tone, a bit of medium, a bit of paint. I want to flatten that brush edge so it's not too bulky, because I don't want a big glob of paint right onto that, because it just won't serve any purpose, it won't do any good at all. Now this colour now, whilst I'm running alongside the dark tone, is actually very similar to the base tone. So as you're putting it on, it doesn't look like it's making a difference, but it's actually blending with the darker tone that I first just put in and pulling that together a bit more, so it's blending that along nicely. So there we go with that. So I'll come a bit down there. I don't want to come too far down with this because I've got to put the light tone at the bottom. So that can come along there. Now it's quite light across the bottom of the arm. So again, as I said earlier, the light's actually coming up from the bottom. Oh, hi Susie. Thank you very much. Light's coming up from the bottom, so don't want to put too much down because I want to get the light tone that I've already blended into that shortly after I finish this mid tone. Bring that around to there. Now usually when you're doing this, you get so far with an area, you just want to stop off, well I always do, because I don't want to go too far and put too much paint down before I actually get to almost finishing that area paint wise, because if I do that, then before you know it, you've got a whole area filled with paint that might not be exactly the right tone. So it's best just to do it in bits. Now this light tone again is different to what's gone on already. So that's just pulling all the colours together now, all the skin tones together. And that light section should come all the way around the front. I'm just going to step around the side here. Can you still see that? Yeah, you can. I'm just going to pull that there, because it's easy just for me just to stand here for a second and just pull that around there. There we go. Pull a bit at the top, I've got the fingers still to come up through here, so that can go on to there. Got a bit of the light off that vertical finger there, it's being picked up. And then we're coming down the top section of the arm, like so. Oh, and that's what always happens. So you get a nice dirty paintbrush covered in spaniel hair. Yay! And get paint all over my arm. But at least I miss your watch. So I'll just clear that off. As much as I love my spaniel, I don't like leaving bits of him all over the painting, because he gets everywhere. So, where were we? Right, okay, going down here. Coming down there, and that's going to go pretty much all along the base of that arm. I'll just keep bringing that down there. Now this will stand out quite brightly when I get the hair detail put in, because obviously you've got standing out there a fair bit now. Actually, it's not looking too bad that. But when the hair's in there, that area, then you'll have a lot more definition against that arm. So I shall bring that down. You've got quite a bit of muscle definition off the bottom of the arm down through there. A bit more medium. and because the hair is going to come up through there and over the top of the arm there, I don't want to have too much light there, because that's actually going to be quite a dark area. So I'll leave that well alone. Bring the highlight further down here. And again, that tonality there is blending in with the background, so it's like she's almost slowly sort of disappearing into it, which effect I quite like. Don't want it to be completely blocked out, although the black dress will do that, but the actual anatomy of the ballet dancer I like just to blend in to the background slightly, and it gives them more of a sort of magical feel. Now this light area, this light section, it's a bit too dark here, but because I've not got the rest of the stuff in, the rest of the background as such, I don't want to make it too light at the moment. I'll save that for the highlights at the end when I get more of the overall shape of the dancer in there. Now I've got a bit more mid-tone. I'm going to need some mid-tone up the arm. So I need some more mid-tone there, because that's going to go from sort of a dark into light into dark again. Now what I'm going to do, this is the bit I like doing the best, this is the magic bit, this is where the magic happens. So, I get my number, I think it's a 6 or an 8, that's a number 8. Get number 8. So I need my towel. Just going to do my waiter impersonation. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to run the brush over that, and that will just slowly blend the light into the dark, vice versa, and give it almost like a seamless colour change. What you have to do is you don't want loads of paint stuck on it, so you have to just keep taking the paint off. Because it does pick up and transfer paint, so you don't want the paint all transferred away. But if you're not careful, it can get a bit muddy. And it's blended in quite nicely. What I like to do by doing this, you're also taking out the brush strokes that show the definition of the arm, and you're just using the colour, the tonality of the colour, just to show the muscle definition. But that's not too bad. It's not too bad, really. So we'll leave that there. And I think I need a bit more dark in there. So we'll go back with the dark. Get that the right tone. And I'll have a bit more there. Keep the pressure light as well. Just keep blending that through. Get the blender, get a towel, off we go again. That's looking okay, I'm quite happy with that. Well, I need a bit more definition, so what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to leave that as a base layer, as a base area. Blend that out a bit. So it's not too defined, not too rigid. It'll accept paint better when I repaint that front end. So I'll leave that as it is. the time being, and I'll concentrate on the section from the elbow to the shoulder. Could go on there. Right, now this is mostly mid-tone and light. The mid-tone is probably somewhere between the mid-tone what I've used on the forearm and the dark that I've used on the forearm. So I'm just going to blend the two colours in. This is what normally happens when you start to paint flesh tones. What you do is just start off with a dark and a medium and a light. And by the time you got halfway through, you've got a dark and a medium, a dark to medium, a medium to light, and a light and a medium. So you got normally you got about 5 different tones on there, and you start off with 3, and then sometimes you have like 7 or 8. But it just depends on what you need to achieve. So what have I got there? So I've got a bit there. That's a nicer colour. So it's all about just the definition, just bringing the definition out. It's almost like when someone's whittling away at a piece of wood. They start off with a big lump of wood, and then as they progress, it all just sort of starts to form and take shape, and it just sort of appears out of the canvas. Question from Susie: did you make that pole? Yes, I did. This is it's a piece of doweling. It's actually called a mahl stick, M-A-H-L, M-A-H-R-L, something like that. And that's just an old bit of kitchen towel that I just wrap some elastic bands around it. But you can buy these, but I didn't see any point. I've got some doweling from B&Q. And yellow ages, and it works quite well. It just sits there, and as you can see, quite adequately allows me to paint in the centre of the painting. It never ceases to amaze me. You watch people paint, and they're leaning all over the painting and touching it and everything. And it just scares me, because you're going to be picking it up when you got your fingers on it and everything. So, yeah, so it's a well-used technique, and like I say, you can buy them. You get one off Amazon, but you can make them. They're doddle to make. I mean, I've had this one ages. It's quite easy to. I won't pull the stick right out because I just know that I won't get it back in ink. It's all like a fool. But yeah, it's just elastic bands, small kitchen towel of some description, and a long stick. And Bob's your uncle's brother, as they say. So let's get a bit more of that in there. That's going to come down the back. So again, I'm just blocking in the darks off the muscle tone, which this lady's got a lot of, which is excellent to paint, because it just gives you structure and gives you definition, and something for all the light to bounce off, because effectively, if you paint yourself, all you're trying to do is paint the light. You're just trying to portray where the light's falling. So all you're ever doing is painting light and dark. Just bring that up there. There's a bit darker section just up there as well. So I need to add some light onto that. It's starting to look a little bit blocky, which is not what I want. So I'll bring that light down there. Definitely need a bit more white in that, because that's just not light enough. But I'll have to add that in later. I don't want to get too light on that for the time being. I've got some more there. That's coming down there. It's another thing you've got to be careful of as well. So when you start to get about 3 tones, when you put the dark and the light again over that, you start to pick up a bit of what you're painting next to, and then you end up with a muddy splodge, which isn't the desired effect, obviously. What's going on down the back of there? Okay, that's better. So I've got quite a bit of definition coming off the back of that there, so put that in like that. Bit more. And that then gives you obviously a reference point to the base for the rest of the muscle structure. And I want to get a bit more white on that, I think. It's not quite light enough. They've been too light, and I've got some light off the back of that. There. So the other beauty of this, of having this stick just the right length, is that I can rest it on the top. It also touches the bottom. So I've got a perfect distance all the way down where I can go top to bottom without touching the painting at all. It's really clever, you know, it's really clever. Well, it really is just a stick, but you know, it really does help. A bit more light there, build that up. I've got some light coming up. It's all about just building it up and building it up and building it up, and just a bit at a time. They all just sort of very slowly all just starts to come together. That's the exciting bit. That's when I get really excited. You just start to see it just come off the canvas. It's just like nothing else. And you've just been painting away for a while, and all of a sudden, it's like someone's ringing a bell, pressing a button that goes ping, and it just sort of comes off the canvas, and it's just there. It's like a physical entity. It's marvellous. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's enough of the light, I think. I'm going to go a bit too crazy with that at the moment, so I need a bit more dark just to balance the light out. There's quite a lot going on down here, because you've got a shoulder, you've got an arm coming down into a shoulder, to the top of a chest on the front, and onto a shoulder on the back. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of muscle structure around there. You just need to be very mindful of all that as you're blocking it in. So loving the definition. Thank you, Mrs. Edmonds. That's very kind of you. Just going to blend that over there. You've always got to keep an eye on that reference, because if you're not careful, it all just starts to get away from you. But I've suffered before, you can correct it. That's nicely coming together now. Just looking back up here, that looks a bit too defined. I'm not happy with that. That needs to blend in a bit more. Need to play around with that a bit more, I think. So, get a bit of mid-tone on the back. This black's took ages to dry as well. When I was painting along this black the other day, I just kept picking it up and picking it up all the time. It was just wasn't having it. It wasn't happy. Because I've got quite a nice thin dark line there. I'm going to get one of my favourite brushes out here. Rigger brush. There's a rigger brush. Used for painting rigging on paintings of old naval gunships and pirate ships and such. It's nice and thin. Just get a nice thick shadow line down there where the top of the dress just meets the body. That'll help giving it some definition. Again, it just makes that little section come alive, because where you've got the dark bit, your brain's also automatically telling your eyes, whereas the other way around. But one part of you is telling the other part that that's dark and that bit's light, so that must be round because it's not flat. So that's the trick, you see. That's the beauty of what we do. It's all smoke and mirrors really, it's just one big trick. Bring that along there. Get a bit more definition of that, that's good. Wash that off. Where shall I go from here? That needs a bit mid-tone on there, doesn't it? Or slightly darker than mid-tone. So now I'm running out of brushes. Well, not really, just I'm running out of brushes. I've actually got paint on, so I need to get another brush. So, here's one of them. Number 2. I'll get some slightly darker mid-tone on that. So as I'm coming off the back of the elbow then to there, just block that in. And that can come up a bit further actually. So because I'm coming up into already the mid-tone that's there, that's blended in quite nicely. So you put that there. I'm just going to blend in that's the lighter underside. There you go, that's nice. I like that. Get rid of that. Pull that off. Need a bit of that up there. That's a bit too harsh, that colour. Colour change, that colour graduation. Just needs thinning out a bit. So it just gives you a hint of what's going on, rather than slaps you in the face with it. I don't know whether that's dark, it's a bit too dark, that type of thing. I have to leave that. What I'll do with this is I'll do a bit more, then I'll leave it, and I'll come back before I go to bed. And then you look at it in about 2 or 3 hours time. You look at it with fresh eyes, and you see completely differently. It's almost like you've not looked at it all night, because you just see the different tones and you see if you made any mistakes, and it's just like it's the first time you've looked at it. So the thing, you know, I'm painting up this black and I'm going over it slightly, but because the black's so dark, I know that when I come to define the top of the dress, the black will just go over anything else I paint, so that won't be a problem. And I'll do what I've always doing. Forget where I put my paintbrush. Blend that out there. There we go, it's better. So this is the beauty of oil paint. There's a little smudge there out of the black, and you can just get your finger and do that. And you've almost got rid of it. Or you can get your towel. Have a go with that. You can't push too hard because you don't want to bruise the canvas. So that's almost gone now. That's looking nicely defined there. I just need to get the mid-tones in around the definition. Then I can pull the darker areas in as I want to. Play a bit with the blending. I'm just going to block all that in. Like so. And then I can just play around the blending and just make it work. Blend the light into the mid-tone. So this is proven really to be like a a secondary base layer to this area. I can blend that off and give it more definition with some darker colours. So the dark should sort that out. Bit more dark. Some dark just coming over there. Very dark actually. Seems odd because that's part of a highlighted muscle. It seems strange that it's dark, you'd expect it to be lighter. One thing I need to do with this, I'm getting to the stage where all the paint that I've got, it's a bit wet naturally. If I'm not careful, I'm just going to end up moving wet paint around, it's all going to end up being one colour. So I think I'm just going to leave that there like that. Blend it slightly around the edges, so I haven't got any hard edges on it. Like that. I'm going to leave that as it is. So, there we go. Tonight's little session. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'll do more work on that as I go along on these sessions. So what I'd like to do is try to get this to be a weekly thing. And I can do more, expand a bit more, answer any more questions you got. And that sort of stuff. So, there we go. Get a look at my ugly face again for a while. I hope that was informative. I hope it was good for you watching that go on. I hope it was interesting. Yeah, like I say, I'd like to make this a weekly thing and just develop the work and just give an insight into what I do and how I do it. So, thanks for dropping by. If you've had a look at it, if you're going to watch it on the replay, just put hashtag replay in just so I know who's watching it when. And thanks again if you do. So yeah, that was good. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. And cheers for watching. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon.